Hi everyone, Butterflies in Space, Joe here. So today on this episode of Butterflies in Space, I'm doing something a little bit different. And so to start off, I'm going to interview my friend Rita Rusty Rose. And then after the interview, there will be a segment of her poetry and a poetry reading. So, yeah, Rita, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, Rita Rusty Rose. I'm a Long Island poet, and this year was voted Long Island's Poet of the Year 2024.
So, no, so Rita, you're not just a poet, you're also an activist.
Yes, I'm activist going way back to the 1960s. I am considered the mother of the modern day LGBTQ movement. That's one of my titles.
And so Rita is one of the Stonewall pioneers, and so it's an honor to be interviewing you. And also, the more that I get to know, the more that I get to know you, the more that I realize that our lives are that all of us, our lives are really interconnected, and the amount of people that I know that and even just how we met, because like we met through the poetry community, and that's the number of people that we know outside of the poetry community is just really incredible. Um, even down to there's an English teacher that I have that apparently is friends with Rita, and one of my friends who passed away not that long ago, who's very big activist in the autism community, as well as disabilities community, was also really close friends with you.
Yes, yes. He was. That's it. Mark, our friend Mark Rosen.
Mark Rosen.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, he left us. He just finished his degree in Hofstra. He had asked me just before he passed, a few weeks before, to come there and talk to the kids about Stonewall, read some poetry, and I did. He's accompanied me to the city, like Joseph here, to go to meetings and different things like that. And our hearts are still heavy with the loss of Mark. But he advocated for the kids with autism. He advocated for the homeless. He even worked for FEMA when there were hurricanes and everything. He did so much activism. And one thing he did, he would tell me about this place upstate where the kids were being tased, and that was his goal, to have that stop before he passed. And guess what? The other night I saw it on the news. They finally closed that place. So he must be working from above about it. Yeah.
That sounds like it's out of the park.
It's very bizarre. So really, a lot of our lives are all interconnected.
If they were not free range chickens, maybe they would.
I think it's also really incredible that in addition to your books, which I'll leave links to those on below the video if you're interested, but also you'll get sampling of Rita's poetry in the following segments of the video. But also, it's something really cool. So you recently voted Best of Long Island.
Yes, 2024 Best Poet of Long Island. I was touched by everyone on Long Island voted for me, and that meant the world to me, especially when you're my age, almost what, 3/4 of a century. That meant the world to me.
And you got Best Poet.
There it is. Yeah, there it is.
And so, Rita, do you want to talk real quick about your books?
Sure.
Synopsis of them?
A synopsis of this one, Asylum from the Inside. This book had made it to Hollywood, And I had entertainment lawyers, literary agents, and finally, before I signed, I pulled the plug on it. This book is about, it's an expose about the abuse of the mentally challenged on Long Island. And matter of fact, I almost lost my life while working in the institution because I was an advocate for the patients. And so, anyway, this book made it to Hollywood, and the question I had at the very end of signing the contract was, can you keep the patients and me in a good light? They said no. And their intention wasn't good about it. They expressed to me they want to make one floor of the cuckoo's nest, and I pulled the plug. And it was Richard Kohler, the guy who made Battlestar Galactica, who actually optioned this story. And what I have here, after literary agent, this is what's left of the book. I just put it all in here, whatever remained of it. And every now and then Hollywood comes calling, and I say, nope, nope. But this book made it to Hollywood. It's an expose. This Veranda Sundown, published by Local Gems Press. This is, we had a house fire, and so some of my poems from when I was a child disappeared. So I took them, put them in here, and all throughout my 20s, 30s, 40s, and then all up until even now, 2019. So this has a lot of heavy stuff, light stuff in it. So it's a compilation of different poems that I wrote. And then this one was made 2019, and this was during the COVID. I spent a lot of time in my garden, and I spent so much time with these flowers that they started to take on personalities. So in here, some flowers are fun, some are mean, but in here there's a whole bunch of their personalities in it. And that's what that is. And I'm hoping soon to publish a new book, the latest book with Local Gems.
If you're interested in Rita's books, there'll be links down below. And then now we're going to move on to the next segment where I hope you'll, please listen to Rita's poems and use it as a moment to reflect. And Rita, if there's anything you want to ask the viewers to do when listening to their poetry.
No, just to, if you get the book, read it out loud a few times. It's not only like a superficial meaning to it. I write in a way that is easy for people to understand. But if you really read it a few times, you're going to see there's deeper meanings within it. So it may look innocuous on top, but actually it's layered. It's layered there.
And now we'll move on to the next segment. And please, really, as we're listening to Rita read her poems, use it as a time for reflection and embrace your creativity.
Absolutely. Surreal being voted the best poet on Long Island for 2024. I'd like whoever voted for me. I'd like to thank you and everything. And tonight I'm going to do a selection from each one of the books, and I'm going to do poems that are going to be in probably the next book when James and I get a chance to do it. Anyway, so I'm going to go back in time, and I'm going to do, it's from Veranda Sundown, the orange one. So they said that I was from Brooklyn, and I'm going to do what they call a blitz style poem, and you'll get the hang of it once I read it. Anyway, so I'm going to take you back about 75 years ago to the sights, the sounds, the tastes of Brooklyn. And in it I mentioned my family's business of Rollerama. It's still a very well-known roller rink in Bensonhurst. So, and tonight that we have a nice intimate audience, I think I deserve to be laid back and talk a little bit about each poem here. So this is the one I'll do first, and this is about my home, and it's called Nets for Bay. I love Bath Beach. I love Brooklyn. Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn Cyclone. Cyclone is a roller coaster. Cyclone in Coney Island, island of liberty, island of wonder. I wonder why there's not another Z in Verrazano. Wonder wheel, wheel and deal, mob style. Wheelbarrow, barrel ride at Nellie Bly's, barrel lifts at Funhouse, House of Cards, House of Brick in Brooklyn. Brooklyn Botanical, Brooklyn San Gennaro feast, feast on a Zeppola, feast of the dead. Dead heat, dead night, night life, night time, time to ride the L, time to be born. Born in Bath Beach, born in Brooklyn. Brooklyn Bridge, Brooklyn Pizza, Pizza Pie at L&B's, Pizza at Spumoni Garden, Garden in Prospect Park, Garden Flower, Flower Show, Flower Power, Power Walk, Power Talk, Talk Funny. Do you think? Cheap is the price of a Charlotte Russe. Cheap skate. Skate at Rollerama. Skate through Dyker Park. Park at Fort Hamilton. Park along 27th Street. By the bay. Bay forever gently flows. Bay inspires poetry, and poetry flows. And that's called Let's Style Poem. And this next one is not published per se with our new book, Jay's, but it was published in Spillwords Press, which was recently an online publication. And this is a new one, Delirium. Fade into La La Land, night shades, Valhallic eyes, pulls the parched tongue, dances on perspiring bones. A frightened moon gambols across dry skin, rolls across my forehead, brows, breasts, and limbs. Exhale, it sailed, returned on a wind, cresting forest firs and pines, capped snowy white, sublime, past bloodshot mesas, bleached by sun, and in a crystal mineral stream, mauve trout swim about, flying from my blistered mouth, as all trawl to break free from La La Land with me as I struggle to get out. And we're going to go right into Death Cafe, the new one. Thank you. Meet me at Death Cafe, where we can stir sympathy in tea, recall sweet past in frappuccino, warm our souls in a peppermint latte, or we can sip demise in the bitterness of coffee, or serve it on the side with biscotti. Meet me at Death Cafe to toast life one last time. And now I'm going to read another. My father and I, we lived in Brooklyn, my mom, and well, Dad was a businessman. He owned his own business. I said I was going to talk a little bit about my path. And so we would spend every Friday at Coney Island and, of course, stay for the fireworks. I mean, we were there from morning to night. And Dad and I, we used to find horseshoe crabs and all different things. So this poem is about that experience, called Seashells Along the Atlantic. Father and I walk along Coney Beach. We search for scallops, clams, cones, surfs, slippers. Father presses a shell to his ear. The ocean thunders. I do the same with shining jingle shells. The sea reverberates. It is magical, wonderful. And Father holds a pearly orb against my ear, and it rumbles. I mimic its roar, and he is amused. I hear another sound. It is a gentle rush. I love you. And Father winks, smooths his pencil mustache, and folds the shell into my palm. And I tuck mine in pocket, and we head home. Father is gone now. His basket full of mollusks, cockles, whelks, oysters, periwinkles, sea bones remain, as do memories. And I press Father's favorite moon shell to my ear. The captured Atlantic rushes, breakers moan, as does the familiar ambient linger. I love you. Fondly, I hold the precious shell to my heart, then ease it into its wicker home. Whenever I am alone, in need of comfort, a sun-kissed shell lifts my spirits. In it, I always hear Father's gentle refrain. I love you, riding on an ocean smile. Now I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna talk. I love intimate settings because it allows us, to be together more, and I could talk a little bit more. Okay, this poem appeared in the Orange book, published by James, local Gem Press, and there's a backstory, of course. Recently, it was published in Jerry Jazz magazine, also. Now, the backstory is when I was a gal and we moved to Long Island, Dad had his business still in Brooklyn. So he liked to do odd jobs, so we would go from the city and all the way out on the island here in Northport too, and Dad would paint doors and do whatever. The man was a businessman, but he just loved people, and that's the way he met people. We met some very interesting people that way. So one particular job took us to Northport, where this guy lived. I don't remember if it was his mom or his wife. I don't remember. But after my dad painted doors and whatever, we would either go in Dad's car or we'd walk. And this guy used to walk with his, I guess, mother's pink, girly, feathery slippers in town. And I'd be like looking at him like, what? And so, then many years later, when I became a teen and ran the street in the West Village, I ran into him again and actually, got to know this man. So the guy I'm talking about is Jack Kerouac. So this is Transcending Generations. On the road in his pink girly slippers and Japanese kimono, Canadian club in hand, and snap his fingers to jazz, he saunters to Washington Square Park, and on a converging road wearing fringe moccasin, I trot along McDougal, browse head shops along Bleecker, and humming a popular tune. I then come to rest on a boulder just beyond the men playing chess in Washington Square, and I strum my folk guitar with resolve, and mushroom to enhance creativity he offers, and I sing the blues all the while intrigued by him and his black shades, black Japanese kimono, black beret, and rolling nickels bulging from pocket, and I am charmed by his toe tapping and feathery pink slippers and bopping his head, finger popping, he exclaims, "Good beat, man, really beat." And his shy eyes study my psychedelic hippie threads and seed bees, and groovy man, I reply, plucking a 12-bar beat. And he raises a paper cup to my lips, and I swig the sweet whiskey, and he flashes his blue eyes. "Beatific man, you whale, nickel for your thoughts." "Heavy man," I reply, "far out." And hand in hand we stroll, beat the gravel to burn like a yellow Roman candle. And good thing, thank you, good thing I didn't add I didn't know we have a young audience. A young
Be careful, he's armed.
Uh-oh.
When he doesn't, he throws food at the stage.
Yeah. I'm going to read 3 more, and then it'll be time for the break. I got it all the time. This is a new one, and eventually it'll be in whatever's is going to come out. And this is like in a similar vein. This is called Shrooms. 2 for tea, magical marzipan sips for you and me, porcelain melting, cup-like faces, bodies adrift, flooding saucer sills until they brim, surplus eyeballs whirred by stirring dippers float along with bitter cotton mouths spinning, bouncing all night long, delectable rainbows, cookie morsels rippling in time to upside down cake-like waves. We chill, revel again, and chatty and happy our minds dance in a shit-tasting dark chocolate serotonin solar rain, and we crash, you ask, like another cup? Thank you. Thank you. This next 2 poem, and then I'm gonna, leave you with that. This is an experimental form, and I think, James, when we
when I feel better thing, we talk about a chapbook about this. And what it is, it's a merge of poetry, art, and cooking. I kind of call it Poetic series. But I have read it, and I've been poo-pooed about it not being ekphrastic. You know, ekphrastic, you read a poem, like you see a painting, and you try to describe in your own words what that means to you. Well, you know.
I hate being poo-pooed.
Me too. I really hate it too. But the thing is, I mentioned the artist here, their artworks, sometimes a gallery, like for example in this one I'm going to say Marlboro, so we can take it as a cigarette or the gallery. And it's just a fun thing. I've read it at different Zoom places and everything. And then one of my poems in this series, Andy Warhol, was picked up by a New Jersey, a regular rag paper, and they have it online too, you know, their book. And so it was called Soup Can is the name of the publication. So no, if those who didn't like it ekphrastic, Soup Can loved it the way it was. Anyway, if anybody's familiar with Francis Bacon, the artist, well, Francis Bacon was a gay man. He was very troubled in his own way, but he was a fantastic artist. But he drew these faces, twisted faces, and these big mouths falling down to the floor, and there's a lot of black and red, and I've seen everything he ever did, and I loved his work. So I wrote Recipe Francis Bacon. In skillet, sizzle thick homoerotic dark slabs mixed with an oily impasto of banana yellow, glowing orange, and pomegranate red. Fry on medium heat, careful not to splatter against doors and walls as it browns, and let out a visceral, tormented yell, "Bacon! Bacon!" Slice a rack of beef, add potatoes, popes, twisted limbs, eggs, and gnarling lovers. Spoon in drops of blood, salt. Turn until crisp. Let out a visceral, tormented yell, "Bacon! Bacon!" Garnish with cheddar and chives, blueberries on the side. Dangle a Marlboro from a screaming mouth. Pour a glass of whiskey on an overcast day. Sit in an empty room, perhaps a cage. Do not forget your umbrella. And that is all the imagery from Francis Bacon, the umbrella and all that.
If anybody would like to make a purchase of some bacon, we have some in the fridge.
And the last I'm gonna, then we go on the break. This is also a new one in the same vein, this Poetic series. Now I love this Japanese artist named Yayoi Kusama. She's about 90-something years old, and she is awesome. She does her artwork is in the Metropolitan all over, and I wasn't able to get to Brooklyn to see it in the garden there. So I love, anyway, she does nothing but polka dots and pumpkins. And to go with her art, she wears this bright orange, and she's even shorter than I am. She wears this bright orange, reddish orange wig. And she's she's like a work of art in her own right too, And so I found out her name means, Yayoi means to march. And you're going to hear me talk kabocha, which is a pumpkin in Japanese. But anyway, this is dedicated to her, another fun Poetic one. Recipe, Yayoi Kusama. Under an autumn polka dot moon, gather pumpkins, mushrooms, dandelions, a handful of stars. Whisper, Yayoi, kabacho, Yayoi. In a starry bowl, mix 1 can condensed milk, 2 parts yellow pumpkin, 3 parts pink and red stars. Add a pinch of infinity. Whisper, Yayoi, kabacho, Yayoi. Pour batter in gourd mold. Bake at 350. Kick your shoes off. Relax. Whisper, Yayoi, kabocho, Yayoi. Decorate your vine delight with pink and black frosted dots. Garnish with rainbow flowers. Whisper, Yayoi, kabocho, yayo. Don sunglasses, a flaming red wig, in a narcissus garden, march around red and white, polka dot trees, eyes watching the sea. Whisper, yayo, capacho, yayo. Sit on a bench, nibble the rind, lick frosted dots clean, sink your teeth into a pumpkin treat. Make sure to wipe crumbs from your speckled black and white mustache. Whisper, yayo, capacho, yayo. Raise uneaten portion of yellow pumpkin up to the sun. Energize, march round and round, sit back down, enjoy. Tanashimu, enjoy. Thank you, everyone. Awesome. Everybody, and you see how diverse poetry is, you know, all different styles and what we think, you know, our thoughts. It's just amazing, you know. Okay, so Kathy, the book you bought, the flower poems. These are. This is the book that Kathy had gotten. This is flower poems during the pandemic. You know, we had, what time did we have just to be in the house, do whatever. And I went in my garden, and you know, as I'm pruning the flowers and everything, they all start to take on personalities. So I made a book of poems, a book of personalities, but they're all called Pantoum poems. And you'll see what I mean. Like they kind of, the end of one line becomes the second line of the next, and it goes on and on and on. They hook into each other somehow. So, and that's what it is. So anyway, this is in the garden. This is Shasta Daisy. Shasta Daisy, swaying in the wind, ready to party any hour of the day, offering a buttery button smile, a welcoming sign, with thin white petals keeping flower beat time. Ready to party any hour of the day, crazy daisy, you are my lady, with thin white petals keeping flower beat time. Dancing in the breeze never tires you. Crazy daisy, you are my lady, your zest is contagious to all. Dancing in the breeze never tires you. You are vital to our garden. Your zest is contagious to all, offering a buttery button smile, a welcoming sign. You are vital to our garden. Shasta Daisy, swaying in the wind. So, and I think you got the gist of it, of how it, you know, the first verse, in the first verse, the first line becomes the second and the next, and they keep tumbling on each other like that. And another one from the book, Flower Poems, is Winter Creeper. And this recently got published in And Then. That's the name of the publication. And I'm just so proud to be in there with my friend Ralph Nazareth, a wonderful, wonderful poet. And this poem kind of parallels my own life because you see, as a trailblazer of sorts in the LGBT community, there's a lot of revision going on and a lot of false narratives. So when I go, I know John will be up there with his flamingo and he'll be shouting this out for me. This is Winter Creeper. Winter Creeper, you are strong as I am, gay and green, nothing stands in your way. You fight in summer for the right to thrive. Your legacy clings upon a stone wall, unchanged. Gay and green, nothing stands in your way. Horticultural heretics neglect your imprint. Your legacy clings upon a stone wall, unchanged. No matter how they try to sever you, you cling. Horticultural heretics neglect your imprint. Emerald, gay, winter creeper, adhere to that wall. No matter how they try to sever you, you cling, forever living and climbing the stone wall. Emerald, gay, winter creeper, adhere to the wall. You fight in summer for the right to thrive, forever living and climbing the stone wall. Winter creeper, you are as strong as I. And this is a new one. I think it was in the Los Angeles Poet Society, but we haven't published it yet, James. This is Tarns. Captured are sunrises, reflections in the valley bowl, refracted as restorative light, navigated are mountain peaks, rocks, tree canopies, sunflowers, the sway of lavender, desert dandelions, Apache plume, luminous displays, they float on an enchanting breeze and settle upon a ginger sunset. In a mirrored vessel, the self retires, feeling quite content. And one day I woke up and this little thing came to being, and this was also recently published by the Los Angeles Poet Society. Constellation. Take me to this place in the heart, where crystal moons shimmer across wrinkled crags. A gull's plaintive cry harmonizes with ocean sprays. Concede to the briny emerald mist. Refreshing bursts revitalize. Blushing crescent moons partake as they wane. Under a twinkling blanket are brilliant sea stars. And I got two more, and then that will be it for me. And this was published in Bard's 2023, a version of this. And what I did was I did a drabble. A drabble is a poem including the title of 100 words, and no more, no less. And so I took a few of my favorite people, not all of them, but a lot of them, and I put it in here. This is, I fell asleep in the library, arms about Colette. H.G. Wells popped in, advised time travel. Destination, Café de Fleur. Oscar Wilde greeted us and suggested we write a collaborative play. Hemingway dropped by, hinted the setting be on a boat. Wordsworth envisioned romantic scenery, and Mary Shelley demanded something monstrous. Gertrude offered a modernist backdrop of roses, roses. Sylvia Plath stared in her mirror, insisted upon a tragic ending. Capote proposed breakfast at Tiffany's. Picasso sketched me with a double nose. Startled, I awoke. Inspired and driven by my favorite artist, I pen a satirical comedy about my drowsy hobnobbing. And so I have one more here. I mean, I could read, while we're doing this, I might as well read this. This is, in another life, I was a rock and blues singer. So I wore many hats. Matter of fact, my band hailed from Northport. Nobody's Dogs. Anyway, and I met this gal there, and she was always watching me singing. Well, this is Bixby. The band broke into a blues intro. My voice simmered and growled. A handsome woman with brown hair and warm smile neared the stage. Charmed by her magnetic aura and soft, dreamy eyes, she shadowed me as if a spotlight. Our desire was palpable. She could feel me and I her. Though many fans heard me sing that night, my serenade was especially for Bixby. So I thought I'd add that. Now, I'm going to end it with this. A version of this was in another Local Gems, and this is also in my, I think that orange veranda.
She's got metal.
Now, I got another back history, because I don't sell a lot, but you know, I'm the age where I could give you some nice, fun things. This is about my friend, the poem is about my friend Lewis Hardin, who was a great poet and musician, and he was blind. They called him Moondog or Viking. And I met him in the West Village when I was a teenager. And he has always been my inspiration. I'd pull up the curb and sit for hours. And I would, instead of going to the Cafe Wa or other places I had to go, I just listened to this man, and he was this tall guy. He had this big staff, and he wore these Viking horns. That's why some of them call him the Viking. And he wore, in the dead of summer, this white fur coat. And these were gifted to me by Moondog. His little whatever. But a fun thing I want to just say before I do this, I want to talk about our Mark Rosen. Mark would often accompany me to meetings in the city. I had to go for Stonewall Pioneers. We are the trailblazers in the modern day movement. Anyway, so Mark is sitting there in the train, and he says, "You got to hear this thing," or I'm just I don't know his exact words, but you have to hear this. You have to hear this. What I got. So he plays me one of Moondog's works. Could have been Birdland. I says, "You mean Moondog, my friend Moondog? Oh my God, how do you know Moondog?" He was going up and down that cart, almost doing cartwheels, Mark. But so from when we going to the city until when we came back, the whole trip was about Moondog.
I would have paid money to see Mark do a cartwheel.
Oh my God, he was running up and down that car like you wouldn't believe. He was so excited. So this will be for Mark and for Moondog, and I'm going to try to do it in the Moondog tradition. All is loneliness before me, loneliness before me, loneliness. In his ceremonial horn helmet, claiming the corner of 6th and Bleecker, this shape in a drape erupts, verse after poetic verse, eyes drifting. He is on fire on this sultry, deep West Village summer day. An onlookers crowd as pearls of profound poetry pour from his chafed lips. They drench his knee-length fur coat, off the cob verses, puddles of spoken word, lemony metered drops drip around his straw braid sandals, pull the cement walk. Blind, crazy, cool cat, Viking poet, dibs on a street are well known. He is a fixture for decades, unaware of an ever-changing landscape, gentrification, Squaresville of the 50s and 60s gone by. He is as splendid as antediluvian architecture. This far-out poet is a presence stuck in time. Affectionately, I greet him as Moondog. Viking seems too warlike for this patchouli scented poetry giant who stands amongst the bluster of change in black shades who cannot see nor cares to. He only wishes for cats and chicks to keep him company on the sidewalk of a time that has been stilled in rhythmic strophe, well-worn stanzas, peppery vignettes, bouquets of fragrant sonnets, words, phrases, tuned into peace, love, reflecting an eternity of poetry and a groovy, aging life. Oh, loneliness before me, loneliness. It's for Moondog. Thank you everyone. I met a lot of wonderful people in my day. If you ever go on my page too, like some of you do, you'll see me with Kurt Vonnegut. He was actually correcting my poetry one day and everything. So yeah, you'll see all those characters. I never talk about it too much, but now, a certain age, I just share little snippets. But thank you, everyone. I enjoyed everyone's poetry tonight, and it was wonderful. Everybody, so unique. Everybody keep writing. From your poem about the son wishing he was a young man, and your experiences, and you too with everything you wrote, everybody. And I can't believe you wrote a poem in the day and came at night and sent it already. I couldn't do that. And you two brought me back to Brooklyn, and then you mentioned, I think, Coney Island or something. Yeah, and how everything has changed. You know, we lived in a different time period when we could sleep with doors open, or maybe you'd wake up and in your kitchen would be a neighbor making coffee. Yeah, we lived in such a different time, and there was a lot of wonder about it, you know.
Yeah, we gave our neighbors brownies for Christmas, and one of them was afraid to eat them because they thought we laced them with something. Well, that's pretty stupid when we leave our return address, but you know, it gave me an idea for the perfect crime. You know, I'll just blame somebody else.
Now today, that would be, you know, that would be, but everybody, and then some of you came out from Joseph, a long way off, and John and everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you.